Hey, Jeff, first off, thank the organization for adding Christian. The headline writers are salivating already. What does he bring to the table? I mean, what does he bring what kind of player is he?
Well, as I walked off the ice, I saw the claim as well. I talked to Steve a little bit earlier. It gives us a depth on that position, and right now we're kind of still sorting out and seeing where everybody's at. And so he's a guy who's had some success in the NHL at times, and we're going to see once we get him here live exactly where he fits in. So it's another player to add to the competition on the back end, and I don't know where he slots until again we get him here and we kind of see where he is at today in comparison to everybody else.
There's no question he's an NHL caliber guy, though, isn't he?
Well, he has been, and so I think that you're getting somebody with some experience at the level, and again another guy to compete for those spots. We got other guys here that are NHL caliber guys, and we probably have too many, and we'll figure out which guys are the best ones.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Next question from Ansar Khan with MLive.
Yeah, Jeff. First of all, Fabry just unfit to play.
Yeah, unfit to play.
And also, just looking at your defense, it seems like you've had DeKaiser and Ronick together, but it seems like you've changed up the other two pairs a little bit. I mean, just with those other two pairs, do you see just some flexibility there and being able to mix and match different players together?
Well, we obviously have a whole group of new players here, and especially new defensemen. And so we wanted to bring two more D into the mix today, and we just went lefties and righties. Johnny Merrill's played his offside the majority of the time in camp, and so I want to give him a chance to play that left side as well, not knowing if he'll play the left or right as we go into the year. He's open to playing either one. I think he's done a pretty good job on the right, but this allowed us to do both, allowed us to bring in Biega, bring in Lindstrom, get a look at both of those guys. And so, everything in terms of our pairings right now is extremely flexible.
Okay, thanks.
Next up, Max Boltman with The Athletic.
Just following up on Merrill, he's a guy who, didn't necessarily play every night in Vegas, but what can he bring you on a night-to-night basis in terms of kind of suppressing offense for the other team?
Well, I've known Johnny a long time. I watched Johnny when he was a young player. He's a talented player who's kind of good at everything. He's kind of does a pretty good job at everything. And I think as you get older, that becomes a greater appreciated asset. I think when you're younger, everybody wants to look at what's the one big thing that you do to add, that gives you potential. But a lot of times potential doesn't become reality and guys don't have complete enough games. And I think in Johnny's case, he's got, he's developed a real complete game where he's kind of good at everything. He can pass the puck pretty well. He can defend pretty well. He can play in the PK. He can play in the PP. He's had a chance to do everything. And now can he be really good at everything? We'll see. Given greater opportunity, potentially he can. And if he can be really good at everything, that's a real good NHL defenseman. He's been in an organization or on a team, I should say, that has had real good success. They had a really good team last year. He's got good habits. And I think he knows what it takes to win. So, we're excited to have him.
And then Chase Pearson is a guy who I think he got hurt early last preseason or something and didn't what's it been like getting a longer look at him against some kind of NHL competition in these scrimmages and practices?
Well, it's not easy for some of the young guys because it is a condensed camp and you don't have some of the exhibition games that you normally have where they can get a real good look at them in those situations. And Chase is a guy who has a pretty complete game. He's a two-way center. He's had to play some wing here, so that's not easy. But ultimately, he's a two-way center. I think his big focus for me right now would be when the American League does start to go have a real good year in the American League and slowly take those steps towards trying to prove that you can be, a kind of shutdown type, really good defender, bring a little bit of an edge, those types of things. And so he'll get opportunities over time to do that.
And I know you can't say anything specific about these guys, but with some of the players who have missed time here, is there how much practice would they need to be ready for next Thursday? Like some of the guys that especially have missed kind of more of camp here.
Well, the longer you miss, the longer time you need, so the guys that have missed a significant amount of time, anybody that's been out for a significant amount of time, it's hard to put them back in a short notice. Guys that have missed a day or two, it's a little bit easier. So, every guy's a different situation, and ultimately, we're not going to put a player in, regardless of his name or what his stature is, or what he's brought to the table in the past. If he's not ready to play, we ultimately, most guys need to be at 100% or pretty darn close to be real effective players in this league. Some guys can be 90% and still be real effective, but for the most part, guys got to be 100. So, part of being 100% is being in game shape. Part of being 100% is spending enough time in practice that you can react accordingly in the right way. And so it may take some time for some of those guys.
Thank you.
Next question from Helene St. James with the Detroit Free Press.
Hi, Jeff. Just following up a little bit on Brome and Lindstrom. They look like, regardless of whether they're in the lineup Thursday, they certainly look like they're pushing for NHL jobs.
Yeah, they both, I think, I'll start with Lindstrom because he was with us at last year, and I think he did a good job of trying to push for an NHL job last year. And he's been playing this year, so, he's a little bit ahead of the game that way. So, I think he's a guy who will make the determination. Is he ready to really help us win, or does he need a little more time in the minutes to try to build his game up to where he can come up and really help us win? If he's not in the lineup, we'd prefer him not to be up here. We'd prefer him to be playing. Brome's a little bit different. Brome, is 26. Brome's been a pro. He's coming over here to try to compete for a spot right now. And, I think he's done a good job. He's showing well. He works extremely hard. He's pretty smart. He's kind of good at everything. He's got some intensity to him. I think he's done a really good job. I didn't know totally what to expect. I'd watched him play, but it's really hard to compare the two leagues and the different ice surfaces. And I think, the one thing that I've seen here is the level of intensity with which he's played has been really good. And I think his strength and his skates has been better than what I maybe thought when I watched the tape. So that part's been a real positive, and he's had a good camp so far.
It's fair to say, both with Lindstrom and Cholowski, for example, you don't want guys like that on the taxi squad. You either want them playing with the Wings or with the Griffins.
Yeah, unless they're so close that, they're going to get a real day-to-day look on the taxi squad. So I would say for the most part, for our young prospects, they're better off in playing in GR than sitting here. And that's just, that's probably the philosophy across the league, but it's certainly our philosophy as well.
And I know it's only been scrimmages, but the way Larkin, Mantha, and Bertuzzi are reading off each other and just dominating, even just in scrimmages, that's what you want to see.
100%. And, I thought last scrimmage they were great. I thought they drove the bus to a really, really good scrimmage. It was those guys led the way for sure. Their intensity level, their execution level, their effort was outstanding, and I think it was great. And as I went through the summer, I certainly toyed with the idea of splitting those guys up and maybe giving another line, one of those players, to give us more depth. And as I watched, every time I watched, they were so good together that I just said to myself, let's leave those guys together and let's let other guys find ways to make their line better, and let's have other guys raise their game so that their lines are better. So we'll, that doesn't mean it's totally set in stone, but it certainly is to start the year. And I'd love to keep those guys together and let them continue to develop and build, I should say, on the chemistry they have.
Thank you.
We'll wrap up with Josh Brenner from DetroitRedWings.com.
Hey, Coach. How impressed were you with Thomas Greiss last night, and what do you like from what you've seen from him so far?
Well, it was a little bit of a one-sided game. The chances were certainly favored the red team, so it was an easier game to be on their team than the opposite. So it wasn't totally an equal evaluation of the two goalies. I think both of them have been good. I think Thomas has done a good job. He's a good pro, as I've said before. He just comes and does his work, and he doesn't have there's not a lot else to worry about. He just totally does his job, and he's done a good job at it. So I think, again, we're gonna rely on both guys. Both guys are gonna be important on our hockey team, and Thomas is impressed in a lot of different ways.
And as a former goalie yourself, how do you manage the balance between guys that are competing against each other, but also rooting for each other and trying to, maintain chemistry and things like that?
Well, I think one of the characteristics that I've always looked for, that I know Steve looks for, is guys that are selfless and guys that care about winning equal to that of their own personal success. I think that's what the best goalie tandems ultimately are. They every guy wants the net. Every guy wants to play every minute. Like, that's the reality. But the guys that are selfless guys, when they're not in there, are certainly cheering that their partner's doing a great job. And ultimately, we're in the business as a group of winning, and we have to win as a team, and it won't be one individual that's going to push us to winning more games. It's going to have to be as a group. And so, I think as goalie partners, I think you can really, when you're really good people and you care about the team equal that of yourself, you can really end up building good friendship with your goalie partner.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be back in a few minutes for our player availability.